For Dad, football was his life. Wherever we moved in the country, Ipswich Town was always the place that we came back to. Mum always said, if you cut his arm, then he'd bleed blue and white.
I don't remember a time when there wasn't a Kevin Beattie. My earliest memories of town are my dad coming home from football after the Leeds game when Beat scored from the halfway line over David Harvey, and coming back saying, Beattie scored from the halfway line, you know, enthusing about it. And one of those things that probably me and my brother then went in the garden and tried to replicate.
I don't think Beat knew just how good he was. Every time we'd have an ex-pro come into Life's a Pitch to talk about Ipswich Town, past and present, I would ask them and say, just how good was Beat? And they would literally, without any prompting, say, the best. Head and shoulders, literally, in some cases, above the rest of us. He had a huge natural ability, by far the greatest ever player. Well, after Beat's death, we all were shocked to the core.
The day of the funeral was a very emotionally charged day. As we turned the corner into Portman Road and saw the three deep line of fans and their emotions and the love that everybody else had for him as well, gives us a sense that he'll never be gone.
We wanted to honour him in some way, and we thought, what can we do, what can we do? We've got statues of the greatest ever managers at Ipswich Town, so let's have a statue of the greatest ever player. There was only one person whose name was in the frame, and that's Sean Hedges-Quinn, coach as we call him.
I think there was no doubt that Sean was going to do the statue because of the great work he did with Sir Alf Ramsey and Sir Bobby Robson.
The process of creating a statue takes me around about a year, and the first part of it is actually research. So I've read the books about Kevin Beattie, I've met Emma Beattie, so I can kind of get under the skin of the guy, try and capture his personality. To make a statue truly work, it's not just a likeness, it's capturing the very mannerisms, the very person they were. So the research is the first part of the process of the statue. Secondly, I would have to create what's known as a maquette, which is French for miniature, and this would be an 18-inch miniature version of what the statue is going to look like when it's finished. Now this takes around about 6 to 8 weeks. Any changes can be made at that time. So they can look at it and say yay or nay, can we move an arm, can we move a leg, and I can do it at that stage before I commence life and a quarter size statue of Kevin Beattie.
We wanted something that would epitomise Beat, that brought out the kind of essence of Beattie as a player.
We were all originally of the opinion that we wanted one of him leaping up like a salmon as if he was heading the ball, because that was the shot that was always on the front of programmes, it was on the front of the shoot annual, and that's how we remember the Beat.
Big problem with this, obviously, in order to do that, how do you get someone jumping? Do you stick a rod into him? We didn't want that. So I had to think, how am I going to achieve this particular design? And I came up with a design which is of actually him in front of the plinth, and he'll be supported by rods for his ankles. So from the front, we look like he's a floating statue.
It is just the perfect way to portray Dad.
I remember asking him once who his toughest opponent was during his playing days, and he thought for a moment and he went, well, no one really. I think he found the game a bit too easy actually at times. There was the Keegans. I think he found that sort of nippy player that gave him more of a challenge perhaps than the big powerful strikers. Overall, I think he felt that he had most of them in his pocket.
What would he think about a statue? I think he'd be perhaps a little embarrassed maybe, a little humble about it.
I think he'd be deeply humbled that so many people have put their hands in their pockets and donated for a statue for him. The fact that it's just along from Bobby Robson's statue, his mentor, there'd be a bit of a tear in his eye.
His wife Maggie said, whatever you do, Sean, make sure it's got the tash on. And he was very proud to be an Ipswich Town player. That was the love of his life, along with his family.
I'm fully aware of how much this statue means to the people of Suffolk, the fans of Ipswich, from the few pennies that went into the bucket in the fan zone, to the quiz nights, to the thousands that may be raised from other various functions. And to me, that's extremely flattering, and it's a responsibility to me. I want this statue to be the greatest statue in the country.
I'd just like to thank everybody that's been involved raising money for this fantastic statue, to all the big corporations, companies, but most of all to the people that loved him most, and that's the fans.